This is the heaviest building in the entire world. It weighs 4 million tons. You might say, how is it possible for this building to be the heaviest of all time? Is it heavier than the Empire State or Burj Khalifa? Yes, this is much heavier than those. The only structure that's heavier than this is the Great Pyramid of Giza, but that doesn't count as a building, it's more of a structure. If you want to compare, Burj Khalifa weighs 500,000 tons. That's 1/8 of this ginormous building. And that's the same for every other giant skyscraper in the world. But let's see the truth and story behind this building. Everybody knows this guy, Nicolae Ceausescu. And that's his wife Elena. Some people believe that this couple are the most evil couple in modern history. Since the 1970s, Ceausescu always had a dream to make Bucharest, capital of Romania, into the greatest communist socialist capital of the world. Little do people know that Romania is actually a mountainous country, and that is why it's very prone to earthquakes. On March 4th, 1977, an earthquake 7 on the Richter scale hits close to Bucharest, Romania, and it destroys thousands of homes. The earthquake killed 1,500 people, but it made hundreds of thousands of people homeless. You could say this was one of the worst times for the people of Romania in recent history. After this earthquake, Ceausescu and his wife Elena get on top of a building and look at the destroyed city of Bucharest. And there was a smile on Ceausescu's face, and he thought to himself, this is exactly what we want, and I can build this city back to the way I want it. People's houses were destroyed. They don't have a home to go to. But Ceausescu immediately ordered his men to start designing a completely new town. The main structure that's going to be built in this new area is a palace and a giant communist boulevard in front of it that goes to the end of the city. Inside the boulevard, on each side, there's going to be luxurious apartments. And this is not for the Romanian people. It's for the elites of the communist regime under Ceausescu. At first, the idea was to build this new boulevard and this palace in a place where everything was destroyed. But after thinking about it, Ceausescu and his men and his engineers thought to themselves, if they spend all this money and time and build something amazing like their idea, it's just gonna happen again. An earthquake is gonna take out the whole thing. So it's better if we leave these destroyed buildings behind and build the boulevard and this palace in the safest part of Bucharest. That is why the experts pointed to Arsenal Hill, the safest place in Bucharest in terms of earthquakes. All the buildings were safe in here, and the people felt lucky that their house was not lost. But they didn't know what type of planning is happening and what's going to happen to their home. The only thing that these two didn't care about was the people of Arsenal Hill and what happens to them, and that is why the project is approved. Before this earthquake even showed up, Ceausescu had already began doing this. He would take over villages and own the property, destroy the villages, and build communist housing, basically giant ugly cement structures where you jam-pack them with peasants. And now they work for the state rather than for themselves. Just like we said, this type of building is communist housing, where you destroy a natural village that looks peaceful and beautiful and make it ugly like this. You might say, what's wrong with that? He gave them housing, but the design was mainly to control the population of this area and give them less freedom, unlike being in a village. Each of these sections had their own men in charge that were all from the state. Destroying these villages in Romania was one of the worst things Ceausescu's government did. Most of the people of Romania were farmers, and they had been turned into slaves for the state. And worst of all, the farmer wanted to work on his own land, in peace, but that was no longer the case. It was always the government that told the person which village he can go to, which one they work at. They would even tear families apart. There could have been two different brothers that lived in faraway villages on the other side of the country, and they couldn't do anything about it. Not only did this make the villagers hate Ceausescu, but they also hate the idea of communism. And you could say this was the beginning of the Romanian Revolution, and we've made a clip on it if you would like to see it. We explain all this for you to understand what the vibe was in Romania back when the construction of the heaviest building is happening. But let's get back to what is happening in the boulevard. The earthquake had already destroyed plenty of homes. Ceausescu kicked out 50,000 more people from Arsenal Hill and moved them somewhere else so he can make his dream capital. So after this project began, not only most of Bucharest, but all of Arsenal Hill was destroyed except some iconic and old buildings. There was a young architect that didn't have all of her degrees, but Ceausescu really loved her designs. A 20-year-old girl by the name of Anca Petrescu. Ceausescu released all his experienced architects and told her to design whatever you want. She starts designing, and not only does she draw the structure, she also makes papier-mâché models out of them to show Ceausescu and his wife. Anca designed tens of different buildings and structures and shows it to this couple, and eventually she brings a design that really catches his eye, and he tells her, "This is the one, we have to build this." When the design is approved, it is handed over to engineers to make sure how everything is going to be designed. They start the project by building this palace rather than the boulevard, the building that is the heaviest in the world, so it was no joke. It is very interesting because throughout the construction of this palace, 5 times a week, this couple would show up to see how the construction is going. As you could see the building, marble was the main source of ingredients in this building. Every time Ceausescu and his wife visited, they would always criticize the work and wanted something changed. Like for example, a giant stairway that was completely made out of marble, and they would easily tell the construction workers to destroy it and redo it because it's not perfect. Another interesting fact is that Nicolae Ceausescu ordered to not put an AC system in this building in fear of getting poisoned. But he did have radiators as heaters. In this building, 1 million cubic meters of marble was used, 550,000 tons of concrete, 7,000 tons of steel, 2 million tons of sand, 900,000 cubic meters of wood was used in the interior of it, 3,500 tons of crystal was used in the lighting. The size of it was 365,000 square meters, and in the interior, 220,000 square meters of luxurious carpet was installed. The most interesting fact about the building is that 99% of the supplies used to build this building all came from Romania. So you could say most of the population were enslaved, so this building can be built and finished. You might ask, how much did this building cost? 30% of the Romanian budget for the year. Let's get to know the structure a little bit better. It's 14 stories. 4 of the stories is underground and 10 are on top. It has more than 1,000 rooms, and that doesn't include the giant arenas. So when the building was finishing up, the boulevard was supposed to begin. A boulevard that already had a name, called Victory of Socialism Boulevard, or Victoria Socialismului. This was so massive that it was gonna take a lot of years for it to finish. It was taking 1/3 of the budget of the Romanian government, but there was plenty of work left. The building is not finished. The boulevard is halfway done, and this is when the Romanian Revolution is happening in 1989. At this time, Ceausescu and his wife are in Iran asking for money, and when they return, they don't return to the same Bucharest they left. And long story short, they were both terrified and decided to escape, but they were quickly caught, and in the courtroom that doesn't take very long, they are sentenced to death. They take them to the backyard of the courtroom and execute them with a firing squad. After the Romanian Revolution, there were some people that said this building has to be destroyed, but the smart ones said no, this is our history. We should finish it and leave it as the symbol of this revolution. They finished the building and now it's used as the parliament. They also finished the boulevard with the luxurious apartments on the sides, but this wasn't for the elites of the government anymore. This was sold to the people, and now the most expensive housing in Romania is in this boulevard. A lot of experts say that this ginormous building should be a symbol for the entire world, the symbol of tyranny of the communist government of Romania that thought it could enslave the entire population for their own good. The symbol of this building shows you that too much power is never good, and when someone has too much power over a group of people, it's never good. Some people think that they have unlimited power and they're invincible, but they don't realize how short it is.